It's just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
All right. Greetings, Earthlings. How is everybody? It has been, as we know, I'm still kind of sore, quite some time since I've done a podcast. So hopefully you have not unsubscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so. It's free. Doesn't cost anything. It just means you'll get updated every time there's a new podcast. I usually do one per week, sometimes two a week, but unfortunately, as some of you may know, which is kind of what this podcast is about this week, is I just got out of the hospital about a week ago, and I had some lung surgery, as if that's like a normal thing. But I had about a third of my right lung removed because they found a tumor in my lung. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And, I like to think I'm a pretty healthy person. In fact, I have a podcast about just that. So I wanted to kind of talk about that and keep you guys updated because I've done a few podcasts, even one from the hospital when they didn't know what it was. So check out a few episodes ago where I did that so you can kind of follow the journey if you haven't already. Just kind of, give you a quick cliff notes of the situation. So I didn't really know what happened. I've been documenting it because, at the time I didn't know what it was. About first week of December, it was like December 6th or 9th or something like that, I started having some high fevers and some symptoms. So as we know, what's the first thing that pops in our head nowadays? You got to have the Rona, right? Maybe it's the Delta or the Omni, who knows? But you got to get tested. And I was like, there's no way. It's been 2 years. I haven't had COVID. I'm probably not going to get it. I think I'm pretty healthy. I take care of my body. So I don't have COVID. So I powered through it, right? I just thought it was the flu for a couple of days. And I was getting 102-degree fever. And I couldn't break it. Theraflu, NyQuil, Tylenol, nothing I could do, rest. Nothing I could do was breaking this thing. So after about 3 or 4 days, I went to urgent care, got tested. But at the same time, I wanted them to, take a look because I was having these fevers, chest pains, really bad cough. It was like really bad. It's I've never had a cough that bad. And they ended up doing an x-ray, and they found kind of like a shadowy thing in my lung. And they're like, how old are you? And I go, 36. And I go, okay. And they said, it's got to be pneumonia. Here's some antibiotics. Take these for a week and you'll be good. Oh, great. So I go back home and I took those for about a week. It was probably closer to 5 days. And my cough was actually getting worse. It was not improving. And I was still having fevers, even with the antibiotics. And I was like, something's up. So I go back to urgent care. They do another x-ray, and they compare the two x-rays from a week ago. And that little dark shadowy thing got bigger. And they go, well, that's not pneumonia. So you need to go to the ER right away. And they admitted me to the ER immediately after that, in which case they ordered a CT scan, which that's obviously a lot more detailed than an x-ray. CT scan, they give you the contrast through the IV. It's kind of like this warm, tingly stuff goes through your whole body, and it kind of gives like a glow-in-the-dark effect, essentially, of everything that's going on. And after that, turns out they found a tumor. It's not a tumor, but it was a tumor. And I still feel kind of like shit, but I wanted to do a podcast. But they found a tumor. They found a tumor, and they're like, listen, you can get a couple things, done here, but I think we need to do a biopsy, and we need to get in there and figure out if it's cancerous or not. So once they found the tumor through the CT scan, they ended up doing a bronchoscopy, and that's when they do the tube through, the lung, and they went to the lung, and one of these doctors at the hospital just kind of did a little scrape, nothing crazy, just to see what's up with it and see where it's located. Turns out, came back, it's benign as far as they know, so that's exciting. But they wanted me to see a specialist. So weeks later, again, my cough and symptoms, nothing's changed. I'm still feeling like an ass. I'm still having all these symptoms, and then they gave me this surgeon. Shout out to Dr. Waxman. He's one of the best in Tampa. So they say. Google says. I don't know if it's accurate, but shout out Dr. Waxman. But I went to go see him, and he wanted to do another bronchoscopy. Reason being is he wanted to do, I believe it's called a needle thread aspiration. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but he wanted to do a deeper dive into the lung, essentially, and go deeper than what the other doctor did. And even though he saw the records, the doctor was like, listen, I haven't been inside your lung. I could go off a picture, but I don't want to go off a picture. I was like, fuck, okay. And again, we're going weeks now of dealing with this shit. So I think now we're at like mid-January at this point, a month of having these symptoms. And then they're like, okay, now I know what it is. The tumor is actually getting bigger. And they found out that it was kind of like branching off into other lobes of my lung. So he goes, my personal opinion, we got to remove this portion of your lung. It's a very common procedure, removing lungs. There's some people that have one lung and live a normal, healthy life. It's almost like just having that second lung is more like a backup, which is always good. So of course it's a little terrifying at this point, right? I'm bawling like a baby. So is my wife. We're like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense, especially because it was benign. So, what's the reason you grow a tumor? Or low concerning, rather. I made a decision to, and of course the wife agreed with me and we talked about it, but I wanted to get it removed, even though I knew it was going to be a long recovery process, and, the recovery itself just sucks. We'll get into that in a sec, but I ended up getting that portion of lung removed the first week of February. So once that got removed, they put you under completely, obviously, and they made 6 incisions in my side, and went in there with some, high-tech robo stuff, and, did a little snip, and pulled out the tumor and the portion of the lung, and then they put me in the hospital. I was in the hospital for almost a week, and I had a tube coming out of my side. It was a chest tube, which still, that area also hurts. That's one of the incisions, but that chest tube essentially just kind of drains all the excess goo and gunk that's around that portion of the lung, so the lung could actually heal itself, and it closes up. So once there was no air essentially coming out of that tube, that's how we know I could leave the hospital. So that took about almost 5 days. And that was brutal. Let me tell you what, I don't know if anybody out there has had a chest tube, but not only is it the most uncomfortable things, obviously, as you can imagine, but having something coming out of your body, it hurts as much as you think it would. Because even on pain meds and, them numbing my nerves, because when they were in there doing surgery, they numb the nerves that's in there. But just having that in your body, here's a great example. Everybody's probably got the COVID test, right? Okay. You could feel the Q-tip going up your nose, right? You could feel it. You don't feel it like on the outer part of your nose. You feel it inside, like in your brain. That's how this chest tube felt in my lungs. It was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever experienced. It's brutal. I hope no one has to go through that. Not even my worst enemy would I put that into. And to top it off, they give you morphine, obviously. They give me a morphine button, which, okay, that's great, but it only lasts like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And you can only have it every couple hours. So it's not like it's, constant friggin', oh man, it's the greatest thing ever. No, it's not like that at all. It's only good for a few minutes when you pass out and you don't feel the pain, and then you wake up and you come to. So that was brutal. And then them pulling it out, not to gross you out, but finally they got me approved to get it yanked out. And, the doctor's assistant, the surgeon's assistant comes in. Surgeon assistant comes in. She's like, okay, hey, we're ready. There's a lot of progress. Here we are 5 days later, yada, yada, yada. I think it's ready to come out now. Are you ready? And I go, well, what does it consist of? So she does all this prepping with me, right? And she's like, okay, so because it's in your lung, we have to be careful when we pull it out, right? We don't want you to inhale as we're pulling it out because then you're sucking in air. You need to exhale and hold it. There needs to be no expansion of the lung. And again, I'm hopped up on morphine. She's trying to fucking walk me through how to change a tire, essentially, is what's happening here. But she goes, okay, so all I want you to do is I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. When I do that, I need you to take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, and then once you push it out, I need you to hold it. So don't breathe. So it's 1, 2, 3. You're going to hold it for 5 seconds. And I was like, wait, what? Okay, hold on. So when are you going to yank it? And she goes, when you're holding it. Only breathe when I tell you to. It'll be after I yank it out. And I go, oh my God. So she goes, we're going to do a practice run, okay? So, and if you've ever done this to somebody and you go, we're going to do a practice run, the only thing that was going through my head was, okay, so on 3, she's going to yank it. This is not a practice run. This is the real thing. And of course, I'm high at this point on morphine. So I'm like, okay, she's going to yank it. It's fine. So I wanted to make sure it was like the perfect practice run. Okay. Quote unquote practice run. But in my head, I was like, this is the real thing. So she counts. She goes 1, 2, 3. Okay, good job. Are you really ready to do it? And I was like, oh my God, we actually have to do it. Like I thought it was done already. So it was a legit practice run. So kudos on her for not lying to me. I would have lied if I was her. But anyway, so I was like, okay, let's do it again. So then of course we do the whole thing. She yanks it out. And let me tell you what a relief to have that thing out. It's still massive amounts of pain, but imagine every time I was breathing, through your lungs or not, doesn't matter. You could feel a tube just kind of like shaking around in your lung. It was just brutal. So once they took that out, then she sealed up my my holes in my side, and now I think I have like 6 or 7 incisions. I think it's 6 incisions. Some from the robot when they went in to do the removal of the tumor, and then the other was from the chest tube afterwards. They're like, okay, well, now you're good. Now it's just, you got to take it easy. We can send you home, but you just got to take it easy, right? Because your lungs are still healing, or your lung rather is still healing. So that day, about 6 hours later is when I got out. And I got to tell you, I mean, it was a little disappointing when they did send you out, because I knew what they were going to do. They were going to send me home with some oxys and some painkillers. And of course I asked for alternate treatments, but like some cannabis or, shrooms or something like that. But yeah, no success there. And it's even more crazy because I'm watching the show Dope Sick on Hulu. It's with my man Michael Keaton. Really good show. It actually talks about the epidemic that's going on with the opioid crisis and how it started in the 90s with Oxycontin. So I definitely recommend you watch that. But as I'm watching the show before I went to the hospital, and then of course they give me these oxys, which it's Percocet, so it's half oxy, half Tylenol, essentially is what it is. But still, it could be very addicting. So I've chosen not to take those. I had to take it the first couple days, especially to sleep. But they ask you to take it every 4 hours. It's like, bro, you fucking serious? Every 4 hours? It's madness. They give me a whole bottle of it. No big deal. Just the number 1 most addicting drug in the world. Take a whole bottle. But that's not the fault of the doctors. That's just what's getting pushed in the medical community. It's just so funny how that gets pushed, and there's just other alternate treatments out there, not just for this type of surgery, but any surgery and any disease. All these viruses that are going around. There's a lot of alternate treatments for it, not necessarily when you're in the hospital, but pre-treatments. And it's just so funny that Big Pharma has everything on lockdown to where you can't even get alternate treatments if you wanted to. You're forced to do this. There's no reason why you shouldn't get addicted. I mean, of course you're going to get addicted to it. In the past, some very bad situations in my life that has, caused me to get addicted to a lot of different stuff. So I've learned to control it and learn what I have to do to not get addicted to it. One of those things is, obviously what I'm talking about, which is not taking it. And then even when I do have to take it, like if I take it at night, I only take half of what they prescribe. So it's really half of a half because it's Percocet, so it's half Oxy, half Tylenol. So I'm really taking half of a half. But I choose to do that because I don't want my body to get immune to it, right? Because once it gets immune to it and it needs it and it craves it, once you get off of it, then you go through withdrawal symptoms. And this is how people get addicted to it. So, but this is all just me learning from my mistakes in the past. Not everybody has that benefit to this stuff. So, that was a little unnerving because I knew pain was going to be rough, and sure as fuck. A week later, I'm doing a little better. I'm still extremely sore, but the first couple days, my lungs were, even now. Sorry if you can hear it, but even now, it's hard to, talk for a long period of time because it's just a lot of work for my lungs. So I've been doing these exercises with my lungs and trying to strengthen my lung back up, especially my right one, because it's been for 2-3 weeks. Not only has it been through the ringer, but it's just not as strong as what it used to be, right? So my body has to get used to and adapt to this new amount of air that's in these two lungs. But I kind of wanted to share that with you guys because I think whether it's lung surgery or leg surgery or whatever, the human body is just an amazing thing. And I don't know if we sit back and really think about what our bodies are capable of. Not just something like a recovery like this, because, we think about it, they took a chunk of my lung, it healed up on its own, right? They didn't have to stitch it up. The way the lung works is like a sponge. Once you, if you cut off a portion of it, the other portion just kind of merges together. And I'm obviously butchering that for any of those college students out there that are going to med school. I'm sure I didn't use the technical term, but that's essentially what happens as it closes back up. And that's what that chest tube was for. They wanted to make sure it closed properly. So the bodies is just an amazing thing. And it can evolve. And, when you talk about the recovery process, now it's going to adapt. Now my lung is going to adapt to this new way of life. But as I was researching and just kind of messing around on the internet while I was stuck away in the hospital, I came across some interesting folks in Southeast Asia. And I read this article talking about the Bayou people. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it the right way, but it's Bajau. But the Bayou of Southeast Asia, that group of people have spleens that are 50% larger than normal. This allows them to spend 8 hours a day underwater, catching octopus and other fish. Because they've spent so many years, generation after generation of living in this habitat and diving and, using their hands and going underneath the water and hold their breath, generationally, they become to evolve to where their spleens are actually bigger. And their bodies are different than people in New York. You know what I mean? There's a cool article. I'll leave it in the description below if you want to check it out. But researcher Melissa Ann Arlado was in Thailand studying coral geonomics when she heard about nomadic sea people living in Southeast Asia, the Baju people, who live in wooden boats off the coast of Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. They spend 60% of their time, about 8 hours a day, underwater. They catch fish and octopus with their bare hands while walking onto the ocean floor 200 feet below the surface. They do it all practically with no diving equipment. They're almost like sea creatures. It's a pretty cool article. Definitely check it out. Again, I'll leave the link in the description, but I wanted to just kind of talk about that. I think, again, it's called Baiju people. I might be pronouncing that, sorry. It's so interesting how our bodies are able to evolve and adapt and to change with such dramatic shit that happens to us. And, you kind of look at where we've come from, the human race, to where we are now. It's kind of terrifying that we're not really treating our bodies the way we should. We're not treating them like the vehicle that gets us from point A to point B. And while I was in the hospital, while I was dealing with that, the only thing I could really think about is I treat my body very good. I eat healthy. I work out almost every day. I walk. I have a standing desk, so I'm not sitting on my ass for 6, 7 hours during work. Even some podcasts I do standing. But I treat my body very well. And I think that's why I'm able to kind of, even though I'm a little bit out of breath and I'm really, really sore on the side and these wounds are killing me. But I think that's why I'm able a week later to do this podcast and have this conversation with you, is because I do treat my body well. And I don't treat it like an amusement park. I used to. I did. And I think if this happened to me when I was 18 or 20, I wouldn't be in this situation, because I did treat my body like an amusement park and I didn't care about it. Even though I was working out, but I was doing other things that would really affect my recovery process. So the reason I wanted to bring that up to you is I think you should really take a hard look at what you're doing on a daily basis. And I hate to say it, but it kind of scared me a little bit with this, but prepare yourself that something like this might happen to you. Maybe it's not a tumor in the lung. Maybe it's not, cancer. Maybe it's not COVID, but it could be. And how you're treating your body now will determine how your body's able to recover from some type of chronic disease or illness or virus. You got to think about that type of stuff. Similar to how what you're doing for work and you get that paycheck, you don't spend that entire paycheck right away, do you? You pay bills and you take care of your spouse. You save money a little bit. Maybe you invest it. Like, you're not doing it for now. Like, you're not saving money to go shopping this weekend. You're probably saving money for 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever. Well, your body, you need to treat your body the same way. What you're doing today is going to help you in 5 years, 10 years, and so on. You got to save that. You got to save the time and the energy. And, that's why smoking cigarettes takes time off your lungs. Eating shitty food and drinking all the time, that's not a good investment. You only have one liver. You're going to go through that. Everything's got a shelf life. That's how I look at it. But the better you treat your body, the longer it's going to last. So you have to think to yourself, would you rather have 60 really good years of doing whatever the fuck you want to do? Or would you rather have 70, 80, 90 years? And, a lot of people, when they hear that, they go, well, 90 years, man, I don't want to live till I'm 90. I think you need to do your research, because our perception of what 90 is you're miserable and your bones hurt and you're coughing. And, that's not 90. If you treat your body well for 90 years, when you're 90, you're going to be like a Betty White. You're going to be like the entire population over in Europe, where those folks are 90 to 100. A lot of centurions live out in Europe because they treat their body well and they don't put a lot of preservatives in their body. So they're living to their 100 and they're happy and they're healthy. Wouldn't that be great? Because, man, life is just so cool and there's just so much going on and it's so fun. Like, wouldn't you want to live the longest and the healthiest you possibly can? You need to think about that on a daily basis. And you need to think about that more and more, because you only get one life. We take it for granted because I think we're all very materialistic. We have a car and we're thinking to ourselves, well, when this breaks down, I'm just going to buy another one. No big deal. I have an iPhone. Next year, I'm just going to get a new one. No big deal if I break it. No big deal if I drop it. Your life, you only get one. Do not fuck it up. Treat yourself with kindness. Treat others with kindness. Take care of your body as if it's the only one you got. But guys, thanks so much for following me on the journey. And, again, I'm on the road to recovery. Things are good. I'm super tight on the side. Hard to kind of lift my arm up and down, but the wounds are healing. Everything's good. The tumor was benign. So we're good. It's all gravy. But I can't thank you guys enough if you follow me on social. All the love and the DMs and the shout outs. So thank you. Thank you very much. It really means a lot. It got me through. Honestly, it did. So I just want to say thanks again for that. Thanks for listening to the show. And if you haven't already, the website, thebaroto.com, is updated. Lots of cool stuff on there. I got a lot of fun stuff planned. So I'd love for you guys to participate in it, subscribe to the show so you can keep updated on everything I'm doing. And before we get out of here, I do want to thank our sponsors over at Perfect Keto. Perfect Keto, guys, for me personally, because I'm recovering and it's taken me so long to kind of get back to my daily regimen of eating the right foods, because I just don't have the energy anymore. Like I'm not eating 3-4 meals a day. I'm eating 1-2 meals a day, but that's not enough food. That's not enough nutrients. It's not the amount of food that you're eating. It's the amount of nutrients that you're eating. And Perfect Keto has done a great job of laying out tons of great snacks, supplements. They have everything from collagen to MCT powder, all types of great stuff, including Superfat, which you guys know I love. I've been working with them for a long time, but Superfat has some really good healthy fats. Of course, tons of keto-friendly options, but Perfect Keto is the place to go if you want to supplement or if you want just those little snacks that crave the sweet tooth without the guilt. Visit perfectketo.com. If you want a 20% discount, use the code TheBerardo at checkout. But I don't think you're going to be disappointed. I think you're going to love everything there. Thank you for listening to the show. We will see you next week, and I will get back to normal soon enough. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.